Meaning of the UN. The United Nations is an intergovernmental organization that aims to maintain international peace and security, develop friendly relations among nations, achieve international cooperation, and be essential for harmonizing the actions of nations. But in reality, the UN is not like that. In reality, the World Health Organization, along with the CCP, has steered the world into the disaster and failed to protect the world from the virus. According to the Finance Times, research team of the WHO expert who visited China last July to find the origin of the virus did not even go to Wuhan. WHO experts have spent 3 weeks in Beijing and did their investigation with virus experts in Wuhan through video chat. However, recently, the UN representative of China is giving another shock.
Here in this council, China has voted for every single resolution on Islamophobia. Yet back home in China, 1 million Uyghurs arbitrarily...
I request the President to make a ruling to stop the statement by the representative.
I give the floor back to the Speaker now.
Thank you, Mr. President. Back home in China, 1 million Uyghurs have been arbitrarily detained.
I regret that the President has allowed the Speaker to continue. Make a ruling and stop the statement by the representative.
Speakers can make reference to specific country situations. I give the floor to the Speaker.
Yet back home in China, 1 million Uyghurs have been arbitrarily detained in extra-legal political re-education camps. I need to ask the Islamic Group of Nations at the OIC.
But this is not the end of China's atrocities. On September 25, international lawyer and human rights activist Hiller Neuer tweeted his experience about China's incredible rudeness and UN's acquiescence. Hiller made a statement about the millions of Uyghurs who are oppressed in China, and despite the fact that his time was not up, the Chinese representative asked to say something and UN accepted it.
The United Nations Committee for the Elimination of Racial Discrimination has found credible reports of China's mass detention of ethnic Uyghurs in the Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region, with an estimated 1 million members of this Muslim minority herded into so-called re-education camps. This Council's next investigators on arbitrary detention and enforced disappearances to be appointed in this session.
Excuse me, I give the floor to China.
Madam President, this NGO speaker, what he says is nothing to do with this item. According to the rules of procedure of the Council, we request the President to stop this speaker from speaking.
Countries can be named, but only by way of example, and I would also ask all speakers to observe respectful and appropriate language for a UN debate. Having said that, I give the floor back to you.
So China can behave as it plays at the UN conference, and this led to the theory of the uselessness of the UN. And President Trump finally made a big decision. In a video speech at the UN on the 22nd, President Trump first accused China and the WHO of promoting cover-up and spread in the early stages of Wuhan pneumonia.
In the earliest days of the virus, China locked down travel domestically while allowing flights to leave China and infect the world. China condemned my travel ban on their country, even as they canceled domestic flights and locked citizens in their homes. The Chinese government and the World Health Organization, which is virtually controlled by China.
President Trump also stressed that the CCP is the common enemy of the humanity and that the UN has the real problem with China. Things like forced labor, religious persecution, and minority oppression should be eliminated first.
If the United Nations is to be an effective organization, it must focus on the real problems of the world. This includes terrorism, the oppression of women, forced labor, drug trafficking, human and sex trafficking, religious persecution, and the ethnic cleansing of religious minorities.
However, Xi Jinping did not show remorse for what caused the biggest human and property damages since World War II, saying that humanity will win this fight and also human life should have a priority over everything else.
The virus will be defeated. Humanity will win this battle. Facing the virus, we should put people and life first.
He also refused to take China's responsibility for all of this until the end, saying everyone should stop the over-politicization of these things.
We should follow the guidance of science, give full play to the leading role of the World Health Organization, and launch a joint international response to beat this pandemic. Any attempt of politicizing the issue or stigmatization must be rejected.
The US was angry and showed its willingness to evict the CCP from the New York, where the permanent mission of the UN is located. After the meeting, Secretary of State Pompeo hinted about the forced closure of a Chinese consulate in New York, saying it was a hub of a spy. This is a big deal for China because it can simultaneously pressure the Chinese Consulate General in New York and the permanent mission of the UN while weakening China's influence on the UN. And China responded immediately. Editor of China's state-run media Global Times Hu Xijin said, "The United States is preparing for a new provocation. If the United States close Chinese consulate in New York, also we will close the US consulate in Shanghai or Hong Kong." The Chinese Consulate General also immediately issued a statement responding to the criticism from Ministry Pompeo, declaring it unfounded. The Chinese Consulate General in New York has promoted mutual understanding, cooperation, and friendship between the United States and China. We've never been a spy, but there is already evidence that the Chinese consulate was a spy then. A Tibetan-born New York police officer was arrested on suspicion of spying. The U.S. Department of Justice says New York police officer An Wang has been monitoring and reporting Tibetan communities on orders from the Chinese consulate in New York since 2014. Also, he is suspected of helping Chinese officials gain access to senior New York police officers. He was able to settle down in the U.S., especially through the cultural exchange visa, with a lie that he was tortured by the Chinese authorities. He also served in the U.S. Army, which shocked the American society. He was unselected to the Cop of the Month and reportedly told the Chinese official in charge of him, "I want to be promoted within the New York Police Department to help the People's Republic of China and bring glory to China." Secretary of State Pompeo, who has secured solid evidence, warned that there are too many Chinese diplomats in New York for UN activities, and that some of China's office of the UN may also be closed. Like this, the US is trying to break the link between the CCP and the UN while preparing to establish diplomatic ties with Taiwan. And that shocked the CCP once again. The US Undersecretary of State for Economic Affairs, Keith Krok, made a sudden visit to Taiwan during the UN General Assembly. The CCP was very surprised because Krok was the highest-ranking State Department officer to visit Taiwan since 1979, when the US and Taiwan severed diplomatic ties, and also that reminded China of Henry Kissinger's visit to China in 1971. After Kissinger's secret visit to China at the time, China established diplomatic ties with the US and China entered the UN instead of Taiwan. But now situation is completely the opposite. Also, there are other signs of diplomatic relations between the US and Taiwan. On the previous day, US Ambassador of the UN Kelly had a luncheon meeting with the KJ Lee, director of the Taipei Economic and Cultural Office in New York. And even Xiao Meichin, Taiwan's representative to the United States, recently changed the title introduction to Taiwan's ambassador to the United States. In this situation, the atmosphere of the UN General Assembly in next year will be very different. If President Trump is re-elected in November, maybe China will be excluded and Xi Jinping would never be seen again in the UN. Thanks for watching. Be safe.